In the kavanot of the tefillah, we learn that every world consists of its own 10 levels, the 10 sfirot, which are revealed in each of the worlds. And that the essential work of the prayer is to ascend from level to level. You go in each world from the lowest level, you enter into the malchut of that world, and you ascend from level to level, and you're all the time trying to join the lower levels with the higher levels. And in the vocabulary of the Kabbalah, the word levush or malbush is very important, a garment. The lower level becomes a garb for the higher level. So that as you go up to the very top of the world of Asiya, you reach the highest levels of Asiya, the Chokhmah Bina Dat of Asiya. The goal is that these will become a levush, a garment, for the lowest levels of the world above, the world of Yetzirah. So that Malchut and Netzach Hod Yesod of Yetzirah will be revealed through the garb of the higher levels of Asiya. Let's take an example from elsewhere in Lekutai, which will help us to understand this concept a little more. If two people are engaged in some business transaction, the simplest business transaction of the Talmud, which doesn't even involve money, one person has an ox and the other person has a donkey, and they want to exchange them so that the owner of the ox will become the owner of the donkey, and the owner of the donkey will become the owner of the ox. So here there's going to be a change of ownership. That is the entire transaction that's going to take place through the method of chalifin. We're going to swap and exchange the ox for the cow. Well, the two farmers, one of them is only interested in the donkey, and the other is only interested in the ox. Each one is, this one's looking, how is the ox going to plow? The other one's looking, how is this donkey going to carry my bags? But from the halachic point of view, what the Gemara discusses is how this transaction actually takes place through the exchange. So there is a halacha of the din of chalifin, which is illustrated by the example of the ox and the donkey. There is a halacha of chalifin which is actually present in the transaction between the two farmers. If the two farmers are primarily focused on the two animals, then they're in the world of Asiya. But when the farmers realize that what they're doing is a halachic transaction, if they put their thoughts onto the din of chalifin, then what they have done is to attach the world of Asiya to a higher world. And they could go even further. They could start going to the secrets of the whole din of chalifin, what it signifies on the mystical plane. And this way they are attaching the lower worlds to the higher worlds. In other words, the din of chalifin is a din that tells me as soon as the owner of the donkey grabs the ox, the donkey already goes over to the other party. That is the actual din. As long as the two farmers were primarily focused on the animals, they're working in the world of Asiya. As soon as they focus their minds on the din, they're attaching the world of Asiya to a higher level. But the level of the din itself is a lower level compared to the mystical dimension of the din, which is yet a higher level. So at each step in the transaction, these two people could focus their thoughts on higher and higher levels contained within the one act of exchanging the donkey and the ox. Nothing changes in the world of Asiya. The same donkey, the same ox, but the question is how we're going to relate to it. Are we going to see the chitzonius, the exteriority, the physical ox or the physical donkey, or are we going to go to the din of the Gemara, of the din of Chalifin, or are we going to go to the writings of the Ari when we get into the deeper meaning of Chalifin and what it signifies on the mystical plane? At each stage we are taking our soul from level to level, from the world of Asiya to the world of Yetzirah to the world of Bria, and this way we are binding the worlds together. So, in fact, just as an aside on having mentioned Rabbi Nachman's Torah about this concept, Rabbi Nachman tells us, why do people sometimes have to go to a din Torah? Why do people have to go through Best Din and argue over transactions that already took place? The reason is because this is our job in this world, to attach our minds to the interiority and not to get caught up in the exteriority. And if businessmen are only attached to the exterior dimension, then they have not fulfilled their Jewish mission, and that is why it will happen sometimes. They have to go to Beis Din, have to thrash out the entire thing over and over again until they get clear what din was involved in each transaction, where they did right, where they did wrong. So this is not just some fancy Kabbalistic idea, what a good idea that you're going to attach your thoughts to higher levels. It's actually part and parcel of our mission as Jews to go through the prayer service in a way that we are binding our world of Asiyah. We wake up in the morning, we're heavily into Asiyah, we've maybe cleaned our teeth and washed our faces, we're still heavily into Asiyah. We have to start getting our neshamas active and penetrating behind the exterior face of the world. And it's a very central idea in Reb Nachman's teachings. It's the idea with which Lekutai Moharan begins in the very first Torah, where the Rebbe says that the Ish Yisraeli must constantly be sending his mind to find the sechel, the spiritual level contained in each aspect of the world of Asiyah. So we just heard at the very beginning, opening paragraph of the Maimer, the Rebbe said there is a light that is beyond the level of the Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama. This is the light of Ein Sof, and how do we, there is a way to attain this, which we will explain towards the end of the Maimer, to attain this light. And you can only ever get to it in this oscillating mode of reaching it but not reaching it. And he says, you should know that it's impossible to attain this supreme light, even in this oscillating manner, except by starting the whole process, by initiating it through the performance of the commandments in a state of simcha. Here we are, Rabbi Nachman's central concept, the importance of simcha. Ki al yedei simchas hamitzvah nishlam hakedusha umalo achius vakedusha shebaklipois. Simcha is not just entertainment. Through the simcha, the whole mitzvah is completed. The whole kedusha, the whole revelation of God's holiness in the world is specifically completed through simcha, because the power of simcha is that simcha lifts out the vitality and the holiness that has been swallowed by the kalipos, by the forces of evil. There is so much divinity in this world that we drive around Brooklyn, we don't see it. All we see is teeming swarms of every kind of people, shops, and where do we see the true kedusha? The kedusha has been swallowed up by the klipot. And Reb Nachman is telling us it is precisely through the simcha with which we do the physical mitzvahs that we're going to elevate this vitality out of the forces of evil. And this is the concept of the 11 incense spices. Bechinas echadas hasamari k'toyres, ki haklipois en bechinas moisoros, en bechinas atzvus, bechinas kol etzev yeh moisor, והם תוקפו דדינה בבחינת ויתעצב אל ליבוי ויקרא שמחה בלב, כמו שכתוב נוסף לו שמחה בליבי וגולוס השכינה שבבחינת לב הוא ששמחוסן של ישראל כגולוסו כשעצבו שהם הקליפויס גויברים עליה בבחינת ויתעצב אל ליבוי וזהו כשיצאו ישראל מהגולוס כסיב כי בשמחה שיצאו בשביל זה שעל ידי הקטויס מעלן מהקליפוס חיוסם כסיב בהם כתורס יסמך לב נמצא כשעושה המצווה בשמחה אז הימר להשכינו שהמצווה שהיא שמחת הלב מבין הקליפוס וזהו בכלל מלכוס דעשייה העולה מן הקליפוס. So Nachman here in the section mentions the Ketores, which was one of the supreme moments in the temple service every morning and afternoon, and we in our prayer service read about the Ketores in the first part of the service after the morning brachas, when we come to the sacrificial portions, right after the portion of the korban tamid the daily perpetual offering. We have the whole section of the biblical